I need to tell you about something that happened to me when I was 11 years old. Something I've never fully talked about. Not to therapists, not to my family, not even to my wife. But it's time, because what I experienced, I think it's happening to other people, other children. This happened in the fall of 1998. I was living in a small town in Pennsylvania called Hollows Creek. Population maybe 2,000 people. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where kids still played outside until the streetlights came on, where you could ride your bike to the corner store without your parents worrying, or at least that's what we all believed. Before we start, do well to like, subscribe, and comment what you notice about this creepy story. Enjoy. My grandmother lived with us. She was old school, you know? Superstitious. She had 100 little warnings and rules. Don't open an umbrella indoors, don't break a mirror, always throw salt over your left shoulder. Most of it I ignored because, well, I was 11 and I knew everything. But there was one warning she gave me that was different from the others. I remember the day she told me because it was the only time I'd ever seen her truly frightened. I was 7 years old, playing in the backyard, and I must have mentioned something about a game a kid at school wanted me to play. I don't even remember what it was, probably tag or hide and seek or something innocent. But my grandmother, she grabbed me hard. Her fingers dug into my shoulders and she pulled me close, her face inches from mine. "Has anyone ever asked you to play the whisper game?" she said. I shook my head, confused and a little scared by how intense she was being. "If anyone ever asks you to play that game," she whispered, "you run. You don't ask questions, you don't try to be polite. You run as fast as you can, and you find me or your parents. Do you understand?" I nodded, but honestly, I thought she was just being dramatic. Over the years, I'd think about that moment occasionally, but it faded into the background noise of childhood. Just another one of Grandma's weird superstitions, until October 15th, 1998. I remember the date exactly because it was 3 days after my 11th birthday. I was walking home from school, taking the shortcut through Riverside Park. It was one of those perfect autumn afternoons, golden light filtering through red and orange leaves, that crisp smell in the air. I was thinking about nothing in particular, probably what I was going to have for dinner, or whether I'd have time to play video games before homework. That's when I saw her. She was sitting on a bench near the old fountain, the one that hadn't worked in years. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Just a woman sitting alone, reading a book. But as I got closer, something started to feel wrong. I couldn't tell you her age. Even now, 25 years later, I couldn't tell you if she was 30 or 60. Her face was... It's hard to explain. It was like trying to look at something in your peripheral vision. Every time I tried to focus on her features, they seemed to shift slightly, like looking at a reflection in disturbed water. She was wearing a long coat, dark blue or maybe black, and her hair hung down in front of her face. But when I walked past, she looked up at me and smiled. And God help me, I smiled back. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" she said. Her voice was strange, musical, almost, like wind chimes or distant bells. It made me want to stop and listen, even though every instinct I had was screaming at me to keep walking. "Yeah," I said, being polite like my parents taught me. "You seem like a smart boy," she continued, closing her book. "The kind of boy who's good at keeping secrets." I remember feeling a strange mix of pride and unease at that. Pride because she called me smart, unease because something about the way she said secrets made my skin crawl. "I guess so," I replied. She patted the bench next to her. "Would you sit with me for just a moment? I have a question for you." I should have run. I should have remembered my grandmother's warning, but I was 11, and I'd been taught to be respectful to adults, and her voice was so compelling. So I sat down, keeping a respectful distance between us. "Do you know many games?" she asked, tilting her head in a way that seemed almost bird-like. "Sure, lots of games." "But have you ever played?" She leaned closer, and I could smell something strange coming from her. Not perfume, not body odor, but something else. Something like old paper and copper, and underneath it all, something rotten. Have you ever played the whisper game? The moment she said those words, I felt a jolt of recognition. My grandmother's face flashed in my mind, her hands on my shoulders, her terrified eyes. I stood up fast, nearly stumbling. I have to go, I said. Oh, don't leave yet, the woman said, and her voice changed. It was still musical, but now there was an edge to it, like a knife hidden in honey. I haven't told you the rules. Don't you want to know the rules? No, I really have to. The rules are simple, she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. I tell you a secret, a special secret that you must never say aloud, only whisper. If you can find two other players and form a circle, all three of you whispering the same secret at the same time, you win. And if you win... She stood up, and I realized she was taller than I'd thought. Much taller. Impossibly tall. If you win, you get your heart's desire. Anything you want most in the world. And here's the thing, I knew I should run. But she'd said the magic words, your heart's desire. And in that moment, all I could think about was my dad. My father had been sick for 6 months, cancer. The doctor said it was terminal, that we had maybe a year with him if we were lucky. I'd been praying every night for a miracle, for anything that could save him. And now this woman was offering me exactly that. Anything? I heard myself say. She smiled wider, too wide. I could see her teeth, and they were too white, too perfect, like they'd been carved from bone. Anything, she confirmed. All you have to do is listen to the secret, and then find two other players to complete the circle. That's all. So simple. I should have run. God, I should have run. Okay, I whispered. I'll play. She leaned down, bringing her face close to mine, and I could see her clearly now. Her eyes were wrong, too large, too dark, like deep wells that went down forever. Her skin wasn't quite right either, the texture of it, like it was stretched over something that wasn't quite the right shape. Lean closer, she whispered. I need to tell you the secret. I leaned in, and she brought her mouth to my ear. Her breath was cold, unnaturally cold, like winter wind. And then she whispered, I can't tell you what the words were, not because I don't want to, though God knows I don't, but because I physically can't. My throat closes up whenever I try. My tongue refuses to form the sounds. It's like my body is protecting me from speaking those words aloud, even now. But I can tell you what it felt like. The moment the words entered my ear, I felt something move inside my head. Not metaphorically, literally. Something crawled into my ear canal and burrowed into my brain. It hurt, a sharp ice pick pain that made me gasp, and then the pain faded, replaced by presence. There was something in my head that wasn't me, something foreign and cold and hungry. I stumbled backward, away from the woman, clutching my head. The world spun around me, and for a moment I thought I was going to throw up. When my vision cleared, she was standing perfectly still, watching me with those terrible eyes. Now you understand, she said softly. The secret wants to be shared. It needs to be shared. Find two other players. Form the circle, whisper together, and you'll get everything you ever wanted. What? What did you do to me? I managed to choke out. I gave you a gift, she replied, a burden and a blessing. The secret will live in you now, growing stronger each day. It will whisper to you in your dreams. It will call to you in quiet moments, and it will only find peace when you share it, when you complete the circle. She turned and began to walk away, her movements strange and gliding, like she wasn't quite touching the ground. Wait, I called after her. What if I don't want to play anymore? What if I don't find two other players? She stopped and looked back over her shoulder. When she smiled this time, her mouth opened too wide, stretching from ear to ear. Then the secret will eat you from the inside out, she said, slowly, painfully, until there's nothing left but whispers. And then she was gone. Not walked away, gone. One moment she was there, The next, the path was empty, as if she'd never existed at all. I ran home. I don't remember the run itself, just suddenly being at my front door, gasping for breath, my head pounding. My mother found me there, asked if I was okay, if something had happened. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell her everything, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. The words wouldn't form. All I could do was shake my head and say I didn't feel well. That night I couldn't sleep, because the moment I closed my eyes, I could hear it. The whisper, playing over and over in my head, an endless loop that I couldn't shut off. And with each repetition, it got louder, more insistent, more demanding. The secret wanted out. By the second day, I was desperate. I hadn't slept. I could barely eat. The whisper was constant now, a background hum that never stopped. I started researching in the library, trying to find any information about the whisper game, and I found things, old newspaper clippings about missing children, historical records of mysterious deaths. Warnings in folklore books about dangerous games that should never be played, but nothing that told me how to stop it. By the third day, I was starting to understand what the woman meant about the secret eating me from the inside. I could feel it growing, expanding, taking up more and more space in my head. It was pushing out my own thoughts, my own memories, replacing them with whispers. And the worst part? Part of me wanted to complete the game, not because I believed I'd save my father. By then I knew that was a lie, a trap, but because the secret promised relief. It promised that if I just found 2 other players, if I just formed a circle and whispered together, the pain would stop. That's how it gets you. It makes its own existence so unbearable that you'll do anything to be free of it, even if that means condemning 2 other people to the same fate. On the 4th day, I broke. I went to school with a plan. I was going to find 2 classmates, tell them about the game, get them to play. I didn't care anymore about right or wrong. I just wanted the whispers to stop. I approached Tommy Chen during recess. Tommy was a friend of mine, quiet kid, trusting, easy target. "Hey Tommy," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "Want to play a game?" He looked up from his book. "What kind of game?" And I opened my mouth to say it, to ask him to play the whisper game. The words were right there, pushing against my teeth, desperate to be spoken. But then I saw my grandmother. She was standing at the edge of the playground, having come to pick me up for a doctor's appointment I'd forgotten about. And she was staring at me with this look of absolute horror. She knew. Somehow she knew what I was about to do, and I remembered her warning. I remembered her fear, and I realized that if I did this, if I pulled Tommy into this nightmare, I'd be no better than the woman on the bench. I'd be spreading the infection, becoming part of the cycle. I ran to my grandmother. She grabbed me in a hug so tight I could barely breathe, and she whispered in my ear, "I know, baby. I know. It happened to me too." We left school immediately. She took me to her car, and we drove out to the woods, to a clearing I'd never seen before. In the center was a circle of stones, ancient and weathered. "This is where it happens," she told me. "This is where the circle's complete, where children whisper and something listens." "Grandma, what is it? What's inside my head?" She looked at me with infinite sadness. "I don't know what it is, but I know what it wants. It wants to spread. Every whisper makes it stronger. Every circle completed opens the door a little wider. And if enough circles complete, if enough whispers are spoken, I think it's going to come through, all the way through." "How do you know all this?" "Because when I was 12 years old, a woman asked me to play the whisper game, and I said yes. I heard the whisper, just like you. And it lived in my head for 3 months, getting louder and louder until I thought I was going to die or go insane." "But you didn't complete the circle," I said. "You didn't find 2 other players." She shook her head. "I couldn't. I couldn't do that to anyone else. So I lived with it. And eventually, after months of agony, it started to fade, not disappear. It never disappears, but it got quieter, more bearable. It's still there, even now. A whisper in the back of my mind that never quite goes away." Tears were streaming down my face. So I have to live with this forever? Not forever, she said gently. It will fade, I promise. It will take time and it will be hard, but you're strong. You can survive this. What if I can't? What if it gets too loud and Then you come to me, she said firmly. Day or night, whenever you need to, I'll help you bear it. You don't have to fight this alone. And she kept that promise. For the next 6 months, as the whisper slowly faded from a roar to a murmur, she was there. She'd sit with me through sleepless nights. She'd talk me down when the urge to complete the circle became overwhelming. She taught me meditation techniques, ways to compartmentalize the whisper, to build walls around it in my mind, slowly, painfully slowly. It worked. The whisper didn't disappear, but it became background noise, something I could live with instead of something that controlled me. My father died 4 months after my encounter with the woman. I won't lie and say the whisper didn't try to use that grief against me, didn't promise that completing the circle could bring him back. But I held firm. I grieved naturally, healthily, with the support of my family. I'm 36 years old now. 25 years have passed since that October afternoon in Riverside Park. The whisper is still there, in the back of my mind. Some days I barely notice it. Other days, especially when I'm stressed or tired, it gets a little louder. But I've never completed the circle. I've never condemned 2 other people to this curse. My grandmother died 5 years ago. Before she passed, she told me that her grandmother had also played the whisper game and survived without completing the circle, and her grandmother before that. It goes back generations, this curse that runs through my family. Why us? I asked her near the end. Why does it keep coming back to our family? She smiled weakly. Maybe because we're strong enough to resist, or maybe because it knows that if it can break one of us, if it can get us to complete the circle, we'll be so consumed by guilt that we'll help it spread even more. I don't know, baby. I don't know. Here's why I'm telling you this story now. 2 weeks ago, I was at my daughter's school for a parent-teacher conference. My daughter, Emma, is 9 years old. As I was leaving, I saw a woman sitting on a bench near the playground. She was wearing a long coat, and her hair hung down in front of her face, and I couldn't quite focus on her features. My blood ran cold. I walked faster toward my car, but as I passed her, she looked up and smiled at me, that same too wide smile. Your daughter is beautiful, she said in that musical voice I'd never forgotten. She looks like someone who's very good at keeping secrets. I stopped, turned to face her. Stay away from my daughter. I'm not interested in your daughter, she replied, tilting her head. Not yet, but she has friends, doesn't she? Friends who might enjoy playing a game. If you go near any of these children, you'll what? She stood up, and she was still impossibly tall. Tell them about me? Warn them? They won't believe you. They never do. Or worse, you'll have to explain how you know about the whisper game, and then you'll have to admit that you carry the secret, that it lives inside you even now. And some curious child will want to know what the secret is. She leaned closer, and I could smell that same scent. Old paper, and copper, and rot. The game never ends, she whispered. The circles keep forming, the whispers keep spreading, and every generation we find the ones who are strong enough to resist, but weak enough to carry. Your grandmother, you, eventually your daughter. The secret lives in your blood now. It will always find you. It will always find your children. I wanted to attack her, to drive her away, to do anything to protect my daughter and her classmates, but she disappeared before I could move. One moment there, the next gone, like she'd never been real at all. That night, I sat Emma down and told her a version of my grandmother's warning. I told her that if anyone ever asked her to play the whisper game, she should run and tell me immediately. I tried to keep it light, tried not to scare her too much, but she looked at me with these serious, knowing eyes and said, I know, Daddy. Great-grandma already told me. My heart stopped. When? When did she tell you? In my dreams, Emma said simply. She visits sometimes and tells me things, and she said the most important thing to remember is to never listen to the whisper, even if it promises to give you everything you want. I don't know if my grandmother's spirit really visits my daughter, or if somehow the curse has given Emma inherited memories, or if there's something else going on that I don't understand. But I know one thing with certainty: the game continues. The woman, or whatever she is still out there, still approaching children, still offering them their heart's desire in exchange for a whisper. And some children say yes. Some children hear the secret and either complete the circle or spend the rest of their lives fighting against the whisper in their heads. If you have children, if you work with children, if you have younger siblings or nieces or nephews, please, please warn them. Tell them about the whisper game. Tell them that if anyone ever asks them to play, they need to run. Don't engage, don't listen, don't be polite, just run. The whisper game is real. It's happening right now, somewhere in the world. A child is being approached, a question is being asked, a secret is being shared. Don't let it be your child. Don't let them become another whisper in the darkness, because once you hear it, once it gets inside your head, you're never truly free again. Some nights, when everything is quiet and I'm lying in bed next to my wife, I can still hear that woman's voice, and she's asking the same question she asked 25 years ago. Do you want to play? And every night, I give the same answer. No. God help me, no. But I'm so tired of saying no.